Alright, so we're on to the lighting portion of this. Some people like to do the shading first. I prefer to do lighting first just because of the amount of resources it would take to do the lighting and the shading and whatever else. So first thing I did was I saved my scene as Gillette Lighting Sarcona dot bunch of zeros 1.mb. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create kind of like a 2-point lighting system. And out of all the lights that are under the create lights area, I'm going to use an area light because an area light will give us the most realistic lighting because it comes from an area, which most lights do. So I'm going to kind of position this a little bit further back like this. Now one thing about area lights is they have this little pointy thing sticking out and they have this plane. This plane will actually be like a cutter for our area. So if I were just to render it from this view, you can see how you have a hard line right here. Okay, and we also have this big bright spot. So I just want to make sure that that's like not going to be in the way. Like for instance, having this right on top of this wouldn't really work because I would still see that kind of stuff here. So I just push it back so I don't see that kind of stuff. Alright, so we're going to use, this will be main light. And a million different ways to set this up. First thing we're going to do is take our decay rate to quadratic. Okay, that will give us drop off. Here's our light. Okay, with no decay, we get a perfect light shining on that forever basically. With quadratic, what you're going to see is that the light is more intense here and it quickly drops off. So eventually I'll have to crank up this intensity in order to get the light over there. Okay, this is more physically accurate, which is what we're going for. So basic settings, change it to quadratic. I don't need to worry about this really because I'm going to change it somewhere else. Mental ray, use light shape. I don't need visible checked on, but I'll show what that's going to do later. Under shadows, I should have use ray trace shadows clicked on. Okay, there's depth map up here. There's ray trace. I'm going to make sure use ray trace is on. This is set to use light shape. That's fine. I'm going to come down to the light shader and click on the box. And I'm going to add in a portal light. There we go. So now I have a portal light here. And what a portal light allows me to do is basically figure out where the light's coming from. And it gives me more accurate representation of my coloring and shadows and whatever else. So now if I kind of zoom in here and I do a rendering, I'm not going to see anything. This intensity multiplier on my portal light, I'll call this main light, portal light, is how intense it is. So I'm going to put this up to 5. We'll hit render. Nothing yet. We'll put it up to 20. Hit render. We'll put it up to 400. Hit render. We'll back out and see what's going on. See if we're getting anything. We are getting something. It's connected there. Alright, this might be a new 2014 thing that I have to come back to my regular intensity and adjust that. So yeah, it sucks that you had to see all that stuff, but that's where it is. Okay, so I'm just going back to my main light, and I'm just increasing this intensity just to get it to reach that. Now one thing you're going to see is that there's a quick bright spot here, and then it kind of goes right into this gray area. Alright, I'm going to fix that. Okay, one of the things we have to do is to set this thing up correctly is we have to tell Maya that we want to physically accurately light this thing and not just do like a best guess kind of thing. So I'm going to go to my render settings, and we're not going to use Maya for this, we're going to use Mental Ray. So under the Maya software tab here, I'm going to choose Mental Ray. Under Window Settings Preferences Plugin Manager, if Mental Ray is not loaded, this is where I could do it. I just find the Maya to Mental Ray and make sure both of those are clicked. Okay, I'm going to enable my color space, and what this is going to do is it's going to render out, it's going to bring in any images that we bring in as an sRGB color profile. That's basically like a JPEG and a color corrected profile. But anything we render out is going to be linear, meaning that its math is going to be adding up correctly. Alright, so that's that. In 2014, just as a bonus, under the Quality tab in Mental Ray, under Frame Buffer, it automatically picks 4x16, okay, which is going to be fine for this class. Sometimes you want to go 4x32, but 4x16 will work. Under the Common tab, I also want to make sure I choose, instead of Maya If, I'm going to choose OpenEXR. And then from the image compression, RLE is fine. Okay, so that's that. So basically what we're going to do is we're bringing in sRGB images, we're rendering out linear images. Now if I were to render this again, you'll see that this does look a little bit softer, okay, but this still isn't correct. I'll wait for it to finish. There it is. So under display, I have to make sure two things. One, 32-bit floating image is checked on. By default, 2014 comes with that. Under color management inside the render settings display, color management, I want to make sure I'm telling Maya that I'm bringing in a linear image and I'm making it an sRGB just so I can preview it. So now you see in here, that looks much better. It looks like we have a nice drop off all the way here and we're actually lighting up our stuff. Okay, so now let's go back to our light and we'll take this up to 80. I'll take it up to 160. I just really want to get some light to it. I don't have to be too concerned with the spot right here. Alright, 300. Alright, now this is already taking too long. It's taking over 9 seconds a frame. So I'm going to go up to Options in my render view, go to Test Resolution, and set this to 50%. I'm only doing a lighting test. So basically I hit the render button, within 5 seconds I should have this thing out. There we go. 5 seconds exact. Okay, so now I can see this thing and it looks like I'm getting somewhat okay lighting. I'm probably going to up this to maybe 800. And I could even marquee a section in here and then just do this red box. You always marquee first and then click the red renderer. That just means render that region. Alright, let's do 1600. Not seeing a huge difference. Just for fun, I'll check the portal light. There we go, and now the portal light's working. Wonderful Maya. Alright, so the moral of this, we can't always trust what Maya tells us. So I'll put this back to 1. You can see how I'm getting basically the same results. Now if I go to the portal light, I put in 5 and render it. Now the portal light's working the way it should. So it may have just been a glitch and me just going through and playing with some of these settings made it work. Or the fact that I'm using Mental Ray and before I was using Maya software, now it's working better. Okay, or now it's working because portal light is actually a Mental Ray feature. Alright, so that's pretty good for that. Alright, I'm going to do another thing here. This color multiplier here is basically like what color this light is going to be. Okay, so what I'm going to do is if we look at the internet, light actually has color values to it. So if we look at something like this, this is the color value of lights. So 1,000 on the Kelvin scale is basically like below candlelight. It's this red color. 10,000 is a blue sky. 7,000 is overcast daylight. So it'd be nice if we could just kind of grab one of these colors and that would be a cool color. So I'm going to go to the color multiplier and click here. And then, alright, so what we're going to do, I had to find it because I forgot the name of it. We're going to connect this MIB CIE underscore D. And you just search for MIB up here, make sure you click the mental ray, and you find it there. So we click that and connect it to the color, and now we have a Kelvin temperature. So if I set this to the minimum, which is 4 Gs, and I render it, I'll get this. If I set it to 10,000, I can click this to save it just so I can compare. Render again. Now I'm getting that blue light. Okay, so it gives me this cool ability just to kind of punch in a value and get that kind of lighting. Okay, so for now I'll leave it at 7,500. I think I want it a little bit blue. You can kind of see, if I was picking colors here, that we are kind of in a blue realm right there. It's a little bit bluey. Maybe eventually I'll go to 8,000. There we go. It's a little bit bluer. Alright. So now that I have this light set up and we're cool with it, I could always stretch this out too. You'll see we'll get different results as we start playing with it. I'm going to go to select the light, go to Edit, Duplicate Special. I'm going to say Duplicate Input Graph. And when I duplicate this and I scoot it over to this side and I rotate it, oops, that way the line is pointing at it, I get all the stuff I had in the other one. So here's my portal light, here is my color multiplier, and I can pick a different color. Now I like to do a little bit of contrast in here. So on one side I'm going to have it a little bit warm, the other side a little bit cool. So now you can see here, it looks like we have this cool, or the warm light on this side, and then we have a cool light on that side. I think it gives it this really neat look to it. All right. One thing I don't like is how close our stuff is to the background. So I'm just going to scoot our background backwards. There we go. And if I need to, I can always grab this edge and pull it out. Okay, and you'll see how that's going to change the look of this. Because now my shadows are going to go back further, and so on. Okay, so you see how the shadows are now doing what they're doing. Before they're really close and really tall. Now they're being dispersed a little bit better in the back. Okay, so overall I'm pretty happy with this kind of lighting. I'm going to come back and I'm going to tweak this lighting. You know, maybe I'll stretch these out a little bit. One thing about these lights is that the size of them will matter. If these things are huge, they're going to emit more light. So by doing that, I may have blown my scene out like crazy, which I pretty much did. So I'm just going to undo. There you go. Now we're back to that size. Okay, and that's just the basic lighting. Like I said, we're going to come back and we're going to play with it more, but just getting that default setup in here is going to be essential just to get some sort of nice texturing on these, this, and so on. Alright, so that's the lighting, and next thing we're going to do is start texturing this.